Welcome to Disney Story Time! To hear the story read to you, tap the orange button.
Toy Story: A New Mission. Andy was leaving for college, and his toys were heading to the attic. But Sarge and his Green Army men had a different plan. They climbed up to the windowsill. "What are you doing?" asked Buzz. "We're moving on," Sarge replied. Sarge explained that the platoon's tour of duty in Andy's room was over. It was time he and his troops took up a new mission. With one last salute, they jumped off the windowsill, opened their parachutes, and sailed across the city. Before long, the three Army men landed near a toy store, the perfect place to find a child and a new home. They waited until they saw a boy and his mother walking toward them. "This child is military material," Sarge whispered. "On your marks, gentlemen. Go, go, go!" Quickly, Sarge and his men jumped into the mother's shopping bag. But the soldiers weren't taken home for playtime. They made a different stop instead. The boy and his mother went to a bakery, where the baker gave the boy a giant cookie. As he reached for it, the boy knocked the bag over, and the Army men tumbled to the floor. After the boy left, the baker spotted the toys beside the counter. New decorations, the baker thought, as he scooped them off the floor. Then he carried them into the kitchen, washed them off, and put them on a cake. Soon, the Army men were ankle-deep in icing, in a refrigerator with other cakes. "Looks like we're in for a long, cold night," Sarge sighed. But as soon as morning came, the soldiers were on the move again. The baker put the cake in a box, and a few hours later, Sarge and his men found themselves in front of a very happy birthday boy. "Green Army men, cool!" the boy exclaimed. Excited, he plucked the soldiers off the cake and set them aside. "This could be it, men," Sarge whispered. "This boy could lead us to our new home." The soldiers nodded in agreement. Their mission was back on track. Then, somehow, the soldiers lost the boy. Sarge scanned the Pizza Planet party room. "Target is heading for the exit. Let's move, move, move!" The Army men followed the boy out the door, but they were too late. He was gone. Before the Army men could retreat, a pizza delivery truck screeched to a stop just beside them. They watched as a waiter came out of the restaurant with a tall stack of pizza boxes in his arms. "Take these pizzas to the Wilderness Explorer picnic," the waiter told the driver. "And hurry, there are a lot of hungry kids waiting for lunch." Sarge looked at his men and smiled. Perfect, they all thought. Sarge and his troops climbed onto the top of the pizza truck. But as soon as the truck hit a bump, one of the soldiers' parachutes opened. The wind was strong and began to pull him off. "Go on without me," the cadet called. "Negative," said Sarge. "A good soldier never leaves a man behind." He and the other cadet let go of the truck, held onto the soldier, and let the wind carry them off. They landed on the side of the road, and as night fell, they made a tent out of a newspaper they found. The cadets went to sleep, but Sarge stayed awake, wondering when and where they'd find their new home. At last, Sarge fell asleep. But the next morning, he and his men awoke to a loud rumble. Moments later, their tent was lifted into the air and then tossed into a trash can with Sarge still inside. As the two cadets watched from the grass, a garbage man shook the garbage, including Sarge, into the back of a garbage truck. The man set the can back on the sidewalk, then jumped in the driver's seat and drove off. In the back of the truck, Sarge struggled to keep his head above the garbage. Luckily, the cadets came to his rescue just as Sarge began to sink. "Grab my hand, Sarge," cried one cadet as the other one held his base. As soon as they could, the troops jumped off the truck and landed on a wall. Maybe leaving Andy's house wasn't such a good idea after all, Sarge thought. But just then, they heard something that made them stop and turn. The soldiers peered over the wall and gasped. They'd landed right next to a beautiful playground. Could this be their new home, they thought, as they parachuted down for a closer look. A group of toys welcomed the Army men with warm smiles and open arms. "Welcome to Sunnyside Daycare," the toys said. "Everything's new and improved now that our old boss Lotso is gone." Ken and Barbie gave the troops a tour of the playground and the classrooms. "Isn't it wonderful?" said Barbie. Sarge nodded, and so did his men. It felt exactly like the home they'd been looking for. The next morning, Sarge proudly watched his men experience a full day of play at Sunnyside. Without a doubt, the soldiers were home. Mission accomplished, at last. The end.